Hey everybody, welcome back to Unofficially Opinionated. I am Christian. We got Nate and Tim here per usual. What's up, guys?
Yo, what's up?
Hey. So today we're going to be talking about generative AI, ChatGPT, large language models, all that fun stuff. I know before we talked about AI kind of in general and is it out here to kill us. So today we're a little more specific since that episode, a lot has been happening in the realm of kind of the ChatGPT and the other models of that nature. So we'll discuss that very shortly. But I guess before we get there, how's the week been, you guys? What you been up to?
Yeah, Tim.
How about you, Nate?
Me? What? I always speak first. Not that I have a problem with that, but I'm just saying. This week was weird. I don't know. I felt incredibly. I felt like I lacked a lot of energy. I was sleepy all the time. So I slept a lot this week. Apparently, there's some. Maybe I missed out on some sleep somewhere, somehow. So I didn't do much of anything. I didn't do much gardening. I didn't do much of anything. I went to the gym. I cleaned the house as little as possible just to make it presentable. And otherwise, I just slept. I slept a lot. So, yeah.
Not wrong with that.
Yeah. I didn't look for any jobs, which I should be. But Liam and I were talking about the types of jobs that I would be, looking for. So that's that.
Cool.
Otherwise, nothing.
Sounds like exciting times. Catching up on sleep.
I mean, it's not really exciting because I do like sleep while I'm sleeping, but I don't like going to sleep because I feel like it's a waste of time.
Yeah, I'm very similar. I'm childish in that way. Like I hate going to bed.
Yeah, exactly.
But I also hate waking up.
Exactly. So. Yes.
Go figure. Like I hate getting out of bed. But I also hate going to bed because I wanted to keep doing it.
Right.
Like,
exactly. Precisely.
It's a vicious cycle.
It is.
Vicious cycle.
Yep.
How about you, Tim? What you been up to?
Just doing interview things and kid things.
Sweet.
And fixing my kids' bikes.
How was the interview things
so they
going?
Not ride them. The interview things actually was going fine. Just when you haven't been on the interview in a while, and then you do the interview, and everybody in the interview is somebody you know, and you're like chill out, but then you do something weird, and it's like a stumbling all the way. You're just tripping over the same rock, and then when they say, "All right, we'll talk to you later," you're like, "All right," and you immediately close the window.
Oh, was it?
But it was great.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It was virtual.
It was virtual. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was virtual.
Got it.
Yeah, it was great though.
Nice.
So
very cool. The one thing I remember from my last interview, because again, it had been like 8 years between interviews, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
But looking back at it, I wish I would have had more questions about the company. Yeah. I realized I was just in such a rush to just get
a job,
and like impress them that I forgot that like I need to know what I'm getting myself into.
Definitely.
So maybe that can be a topic for another day. But like it's just like, you really got to make sure that it's going to be a good fit because you don't want to keep jumping around or just be kind of miserable because it's not what you thought it was. Definitely. Not that I'm miserable, but it is not quite exactly what I was thinking it was going to be. And I probably could figure that out a little bit more had I been asked.
Had you asked questions, yeah. So. But when people are going to job interviews, for the most part, it's because they're desperate to have this job. So it's not... It's rarely there. Do they feel in the position to be able to ask questions? They're like, just give me a job and give me money, basically. So.
And the other thing, if you work there for like more than half a year, what questions do you have to ask?
No, this is when you're applying.
Well, I mean, in your case, you'd worked there before, so you might have fewer questions. But
okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. That's true. We're like, am I gonna be doing this? You was already doing that, fool. Oh yeah.
Like, are you still doing foolishness?
Yeah, because that was one of the other things. They asked me questions. I was like, no, I don't have any questions.
I know the job.
I tell you one thing right now, though, I'm always suspicious of people that don't have any questions. I feel like you should have questions. Someone has no questions.
Everybody that was in the interview.
It's off-putting if no one has questions.
I worked with
but you should also understand that again, people don't feel like they're in the position to have questions, you know?
To ask, right?
I'm speaking
Exactly.
of any scenario, like in a meeting, anywhere, where it's like, "Right, any questions?" And people are like, "Nope."
In a
I'm like,
meeting, it's very frustrating. Yes, because
you weren't listening.
Yes, you guys
exactly.
100% understand
Right,
everything you
exactly.
heard,
And that
right?
is never the case.
You were not
No.
engaged, which is why, in an interview perspective, if someone doesn't have questions for me, I'm like, are you really engaged with this? Or are you just going through the motions and just, whatever, right? Like, if you're not really engaged in it, then, is that how you're going to be when I hire you?
Yeah, probably.
That's just
But again,
my perspective.
they just want a job, basically. I mean,
Right.
like 80-90% of them, they just want a job. Like the jobs that
We can hear
yeah.
you.
All right.
Okay. The jobs that I didn't know what happened. Like all of a sudden, like my volume just went down. I was like, oh God. Okay. The jobs that I've applied, this is totally not the subject, but for today, but the jobs that I totally forgot what I was saying. What were you saying? You said something about like they're not paying attention
80,
and
90%.
Well, they're not going to
Yeah.
be super engaged if they weren't really engaged in the interview. I guess I kind of judge that by if they have questions or at least ask something,
yeah, I didn't. Anyways, that is just a whole nother topic. Sorry, I totally forgot what I was going to say, but it was super relevant, I think.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was.
Yeah, because I'm
Super
always relevant, right? Again, not the topic.
Right.
How was your week, Chris?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Just kind of not two big things, but mostly, playing a lot of Diablo 4. I find that I have much less time now that my family is back home. Because when they were gone, it was probably a bit ridiculous.
Yeah. It was university all over again.
I was getting it in. So it's funny because there's people that I was playing with online during that time. And so now, like, whenever we play, they're like way ahead of me in levels now. And I'm like, I'm just falling behind.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's right. But I'm like, but I also have to go to work. So
Right.
Okay.
Listen.
Well, there is that. So yeah, I've been doing that, but I'm having a good time with that. Also, just at work, we've kind of been they're kind of changing ownership and changing a lot of the way that we kind of operate and focus and kind of restructuring overall. So just now I've been working on trying to figure out kind of what that means for my department. I say department, I'm a department of one essentially, but still like, how's it going to grow? Does it need to grow? How do we need to allocate costs and things? So that's just been kind of a interesting kind of thought exercise the past week or so. So that'll continue. But yeah, so that's been kind of my week there.
Okay.
Good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so on to the topic du jour.
Yes, please.
To use the French.
Okay. Look at you being all international.
Right? Oui.
Nailed it.
So yeah, right. Not quite. So today we want to talk about kind of, large language models, ChatGPT. I think most people, even if they don't know what it is, have at least heard of ChatGPT at this point because it's just kind of exploded in popularity since kind of towards the end of last year, the fall, and just everyone's trying to use something similar, and all the kind of large tech companies are trying to catch up and do something in that realm.
Yeah.
Not that they weren't doing things before, but they're trying to show us that they're doing things and putting stuff out there to try to compete with this kind of thing out there. So I want to kind of talk about, just step back and say kind of what even is ChatGPT, what does it do, what does it not do, and kind of what are some uses that people are using out there in the field, in society, and also are we using it, in our lives as far as some of these things. So I guess to back up, there's different types of AI, and AI is probably a bad term. As I've been listening to more and more kind of tech discussions, artificial intelligence is probably a misnomer, and it takes our brain somewhere it doesn't need to go, right? Because this is not artificial intelligence. It's math, right? So all of these things are just algorithms that process information, and it processes it logically to get a result. None of these things are intelligent in the way that we would.
So yeah, how would you describe intelligence?
Yeah.
Look, we went to that.
We did.
That's a whole.
You guys want to hear that? You can go listen to it. But the point is, what these things are is not that.
They're not intelligent.
These things are models that based off an algorithm, which is basically a math formula. Take input, turn it, and get output.
Yeah.
Right?
And now, you say math. Are you talking about binary as well? Because they're using a lot of writing. So
it's looking at text, but it actually breaks it down into pieces,
into code
that it uses to like do math again. So it's not actually reading a word.
Right.
It's taking that word, breaking it down into component parts.
Okay.
Because it's learned. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It has
well, it is machine learning.
So. It has relationships about what those pieces mean and how they interact in relationships.
Right. Yeah.
So it uses that to infer, okay, this is actually the word, tiger.
Right.
All right. What is attached to tiger in the database, and then it kind of goes through that. So
right. So how would that be math though? Because that for me that would just be
by math I mean like if this then that is essentially
okay,
right? Like
yes, I see. I see.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, math, logic, it all kind of breaks down to at the end of the day,
right?
Like ones and zeros and how those things correspond.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yes, no, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So essentially, what ChatGPT is a large language model. Well, it's based off a large language model and generative AI kind of together. They're similar, but they kind of go together. So a large language model is essentially what it does is it looks at a whole ream of like text data, given that's the large part, right?
Right.
So it goes through it, it ingests it, and by that it's able to start noticing patterns. So it finds patterns between, okay, when someone says chat, they often follow that with GPT, right? And so, in certain context, I see these things. So it goes through and gets all these relationships kind of stored in there, then starts using that to try to predict, say, like the next word of a sentence. So very much how like autocorrect works.
Predict.
Right. So if you're typing on your phone, right, it'll try to correct your word based off of, a lot of times it'll know kind of how you type,
right?
So it'll know what you mean, right? But initially, it's just generally based off of, hey, when someone says, hey, how was your, it's going to know, okay, that generally ends with the word day, right? If I'm, that's what it is.
Yep.
It doesn't know you,
right?
It doesn't know. It just probability says that's how this is going to end,
right? Which is interesting because almost, I would say it is only for me, on a very personal level. For example, predictive typing or autocorrect is probably only 70% right or correct for me, especially with the word wheel.
Very
specific. Do you often type it wrong?
Specific. No, that's the problem. So if I'm typing wheel, right? So we will.
Now spell it.
We will. WEWILL. And so I'm spelling it WE''LL. Right?
Got it.
But it has never, ever left it that way. It is always, and it does the same thing with were and were. I think they're both pronounced the same way, right?
It's like data, the contractions, man.
Yeah, exactly. It does not. And so I don't know if it's just because English, but there are certain words, and that's why I said 70%, because it will, especially I think AI has an issue with maybe profanity, and so if I'm typing something that it considers profanity, it will try to, which is weird because I'm thinking if you're going to be kind of learning from the way that I type, you should know that when I'm typing this is what I mean, and not duck,
But but I think often also they build in sometimes controls, in ways to help, right? So even with like ChatGPT, they try to build things in there so you can't abuse it and do kind of awkward things. I know. I know for a while people were using it to make like girlfriends and things, and like
but I mean they do have those though,
right?
Yes,
right, yeah. But like this wasn't made for that, right? So I know they kind of took away some of those.
They did,
like abilities from people, which
which other producers just picked up. They picked up
Yeah.
the slack.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Again, they're trying to be for the masses, not for,
Yeah, but still, even if you're clicking on, so for example, so this is what I have to do. So if I'm typing, wheel, blah,
None
blah,
of the
blah,
Snitch
I'll type
users.
WE''LL. It'll automatically change it to well, right?
Mhm.
So then I have to delete it or start deleting it until it proposes what I've typed in that first, right? And then I can click that. Or if I'm typing and I think quick enough and I look down to the left, there's my option that I'm actually typing, so that when I finish the word, it won't autocorrect like automatically. That's what autocorrect means.
Mhm.
But that is
Right.
something that's very frustrating because while I'm in the midst of like typing, I don't want to have to stop and continuously click on the word that I'm actually meaning. Otherwise, it just takes more time from typing. You know what I mean? So, anyways, that is one of my pet peeves with autocorrect. And
Right. Exactly. And so essentially what these large language models and these kind of chat interfaces do is, again, they go through, they ingest reams of data, a lot of it from the internet. So take that for what it's worth. They gather huge amounts of information, they ingest it, they make relationships, and then they refine the training. So humans, to some degree, are involved with, hey, let's see if it's getting these relationships correct. They iterate, they feed it back to it, and then it gets better and better and better at kind of predicting these relationships. So once it kind of has the model there for how these things tie together, then there's the generative part, which is essentially it's doing its best to do the best next thing to get to the end result.
right.
So if you say, hey, summarize this 25 paragraphs of text, it's going to ingest it in, and then it's going to start typing the most likely first word
Mm-hmm.
and next word based off of summaries it's read,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then what's in that text, and try to come up with something that sounds like a human would write it,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and that's what it's doing.
Right.
They also have bits in there around trying to, they try to have it somewhat randomized so that it won't always give the exact same result.
Yes.
So parts of it are trying to make it not strictly ABC. It'll try to add a little bit of flavor into it, which is why some of these models, you can tune it to be like more or less kind of creative.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get different versions of the same thing
Yeah.
if you kind of give it a different parameter.
Yeah.
So that's really how they work, and that works with both text and with art, right? So
Yep.
things like Stable Diffusion and DALL-E, what they do is they read the prompt, and then they go through their reams of images and image parts,
And Laura's, yeah.
and they just keep layering it in. I mean, you don't see all of this happening,
Mm-hmm.
but they just keep
Yeah.
adding and tweaking it until they get to the end,
Right.
and then show you the end result,
Yep.
right? That's what sometimes looks great, sometimes looks kind of weird because it's just
Yeah.
throwing
Yeah.
pieces together
Right. Exactly.
from what it understands of what you've asked it to do.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's kind of the broad scope of kind of what generative AI is, what LLMs are, and kind of how they work. As we look at this, the one thing that we discussed last podcast was, is AI sentient? These different things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really look at what it mimics human speech, right? Like what it is it's like a parrot, right?
Yeah.
Like it can mimic, and it's supposed the purpose is for it to sound like a human,
Right.
right? The purpose isn't for it to be like a human.
Right.
So but we tend to, as humans, like I'm gonna always ruin this word, but anthropomorphize. I think I got it.
Okay.
Things,
Yeah.
right? So like biologically, we see faces in things. Like we speak about things as if they're human. We give them human characteristics, and so it's very difficult with something like this
Mm-hmm.
that's intended to sound like a human. We start talking about it like it is a human,
Right.
because for example, one thing that's a term that's used often is hallucination with these models, right? So sometimes sometimes the model will say something that's kind of off the wall,
Yeah.
or kind of go off track, and they call those hallucinations. Well, why?
Yeah. All humans should
Like
die.
it's not an intelligence, so it
Right.
can't hallucinate.
Yeah,
It's simply when I've script, or it's simply there's something wrong in the logic.
Oh, that's kind
It's
of.
not
I didn't
hallucinating.
know that they called that
yeah,
It's not a
hallucinations.
person,
Right.
right? It's
yeah.
it's simply incorrect.
So I watched this whole video, and it was the weirdest thing where they had all these reporters, and they had like these different companies. They had their AI humanoid looking contraptions up there answering these questions, and some of the answers were like, "I don't accept your answer because that's incorrect." You know, it was just they was just like you said, there was just off the wall answers.
Right.
Like
But
it's like, no, you should not say
But
that.
this is the reason why I don't think people should be. I mean, these are part of the reasons why I don't think people should be. People get to become afraid of everything. The unknown scares people a lot, and this is why I don't think that they should be so afraid of it, because it's like humans are creating this. Yeah, we can use it for bad, like we've done everything, you know. Everything, every great invention that we've created has been used. Even books have been used for evil. So like, you know, it's nothing. This is nothing new. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's not trying to take over the human population or the human species. um we it definitely can be used to help us, but like I use it. I use a version of, I don't use Chat GPT. I use Bard, but I
Mm-hmm.
use that to help me write some of the descriptions in our YouTube videos, because, and then I edit them,
Mm-hmm.
because I like to kind of, I use it like as a template. So it shows me, this, like for example, just the most recent one, I think I cut out like a third of what they had written. so,
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, that's actually not exactly what we were talking about, but it helped me. And that's the thing. Like I felt like humans have always been using templates. Like we use templates from, like when I do the video editing, I started off with a template, and then I slowly ended up developing my own template. So that's kind of what I like using ChatGPT for, or different versions of that, and I think other people do as well. Like for example, I may have mentioned this before, but Liam has a friend who started up her own business, and she used ChatGPT to help her create her business plan, to help her create her to help her create her business card, and something else. She used it for something else. I forgot. And she was like, and for her, it was like a lifesaver because she wanted to start up her business, but she had to do all this, which she wasn't very savvy with. She knew what she wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
but she was like, I have to do the business part too. And she didn't really know how to do that. ChatGPT helped her do it. So, for her, it was a menial task, that be and artificial intelligence helped her accomplish it. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, see, those are the good things that when people use it for. The things that people are concerned with is military, you know, appropriation of it. Like using it, like using like AI with like nuclear arsenal and stuff
oh,
like
they're
that. I've
they're
heard that
definitely
come up.
going to be using it for.
And well, right now, no, no, no. Right now, I from what I heard was right. The U.S. and other countries right now are actually trying to make laws, global laws against that.
Yeah, I mean that's what the UN's for,
Um,
right?
Yeah.
yeah, they're
But
trying.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
right
The
now,
UN.
I can't imagine anyone would connect any weaponry to generative AI because,
Really?
again, if you remember what it does, right? It doesn't know anything. It's simply
No.
making
Yeah,
inferences.
but that's the A. But that's the AI we have now. Remember, I told you there's different phases, and so there what people are talking. The military, they're working on a bigger phase, basically. I guess it's more so that's more general, not what we have here on the computer, but it's more general where it can determine different things.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I know. We got to talk about what's the difference between what we have and general,
No,
and
I
there's
was going
another
to say,
one,
I just
but
using
I
my
don't have that
imagination,
stuff
I
right now.
definitely could see the armies using this as a,
That
you know,
that'd be
like there
so
was a
bad.
nuclear race as well. You know, uh, we can use the nuclear sciences for to improve, you know, life, like giving us energy, but then we could also use it to destroy it. So we had to come up with, you know, something, an agreement. I could definitely see the armies trying
I mean,
to use
Yeah.
this,
when I
but
when I hear like kind of real life examples of where this could be used
mhm.
for warfare, it's really informational warfare. So if you recall, back in the 2016 election, like Russia was doing a lot around just a lot of like fake ads and Facebook stuff,
Yeah,
and ways of moving sentiment and
yep,
causing dissent and kind of and also just muddying the waters of what real of what the truth is,
right,
right? And so they had people in these farms that were just kind of spamming stuff online.
yeah,
With generative AI, the amount of that you could do is trivial,
hmm,
because again, a lot of when you look at them, you could tell, okay, this is bad English, right? You know, so this generative AI can at least get English that good. You know, like, and you saw these spam emails you get, like, you're like, wait a minute, this is obviously not real, because this is the English is wrong,
all right,
right? And that's
okay,
how we get tipped off very quickly.
hmm,
But as these things get better, you know, one of these spam farms could churn out way more emails way
oh,
more
definitely,
quickly,
yeah,
and just boom, and they're much more believable and they're much
yeah,
better.
hmm, yeah,
And they could then connect that to, if they have, you know, data sets, it'd be very easy to customize it to your information and send it to you.
hmm,
So I know right now there's concern around being aware that, hey, you know, Russia could do this again the next election and start flooding the internet and flooding social media with all this bogus information, bogus articles, all kinds of things that people don't take the time to validate, check, verify the truth of them.
hmm,
And people are getting upset about this thing happened, and you know, there's
yeah,
also there's already some article that went online. I forget who did it, but it was like the Pentagon got bombed. There was like a generated image,
yeah,
right, and an article that went, and people started sharing it
yeah.
online
I didn't
before
know
it
that
took.
though.
Yeah, but like that happened very rapidly. So imagine how easy it would be to just constantly put those things out here,
Hmm.
and then people start to not believe anything. So
Well,
now,
So
people already just believe. I mean, people already are just reactive anyway. Like they're reacting even if
exactly.
the information isn't good. So I mean, even if the information isn't legit or real or anything like that, they like reacting anyway. So I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if, I mean, maybe maybe it'll desensitize them. Maybe they'll just become hypersensitive. I don't know. What were you gonna say, Tim?
so oh so yeah. So I looked up some things
Hmm.
here, and what they're saying is there's seven different phases, and the one we're at right now is artificial narrow intelligence.
Now, when you say
Um,
phases,
and
what do you mean?
yeah, so phases, like different types. Sorry,
Oh, okay.
they're saying there's seven. There's artificial narrow intelligence. Then there's artificial general intelligence. Then there's artificial super intelligence, and the other ones we don't care about because we're not even there
Okay.
yet, close to that. But right, but from what they're saying here, the artificial narrow intelligence, that's where we're at right now, where it's an AI designed to complete specific actions and tasks, unable to independently learn.
Right. Well, it is machine.
But we're pushing that boundary.
Speaking of learning, because I do want to get into some of the things that are interesting about AI, and not really feed off
Yes,
of the fear that people just kind of
the fear.
naturally have. I think there are some things that are interesting about the possibilities of AI, and one
Yep.
was something that you had mentioned, Tim. This well communication, right? You want
Yes.
to tell us what that's about?
So, there's SETI. So, and when I say SETI, I'm not talking about SETI that watches the stars. This is SETI that translates language from
Okay.
whales. Uh,
Thank you for
yeah,
that
because there's two. That's
clarification.
why.
Yes, there
Because I
are.
was totally on the star
Yes, I
page, so
was.
I'm glad you clarified that.
So go ahead.
so, so So basically, Facebook they they made a new model of how we translate different languages.
Yes.
It doesn't work the same way as we norm like Google. It doesn't do the same thing. It uses a different model, which I can't explain right now.
Okay.
Uh, but anyways, they use a different model, and they took that model and they're trying to use it to translate the all the clicks and sounds that sperm whales make. Um,
Yeah. So in an effort to understand, excuse me, for humans to understand kind of what whales might be communicating about.
I mean, yeah. I mean, not in the way where where we're going to sit there and just have a dialogue with them,
I mean, we
but
never know, but yeah, currently that's not the
yeah. I mean, in the
situation. Yes,
future,
currently it's
I
the
mean,
idea.
that's what I want.
Yes, I do too.
I want to be like, yeah,
You're like,
I
girl,
just got
yeah, I
done talking
know.
to a whale.
Okay. You
I
better tell that home record.
so
Right.
oh gosh.
So yeah, I guess Tim. So how are they? So that they have a model that helps them understand, I guess, whale language better. So I guess how are they using
Well,
this currently? I guess what are they
so
doing with it?
okay, so no, okay, so we got to backtrack because right now they have the idea. They are right now. They're at the point where they're trying to collect enough information. You got to think like Star Trek, okay? You know when they're trying to get information, be like, I need you to talk more. The device needs to hear more words from
Right.
you.
Okay.
So right now they're trying to collect all this information so that within that you know transcribe model that it can work out what is and what's not. You know,
Right.
so that's where they're at. They're in that phase. They're in
Oh,
that
okay,
collecting information phase
So,
got it.
so what they're
still.
doing, because you showed us a video. We'll share it on the share it in the description. But you shared a video where the key point in this is that not only are they hearing, are they recording the sounds
Hmm.
that these whales are making, they have to associate that with something. So they
Hmm.
are also recording or registering, however they're doing that, with kind of the motions that the things that the whales are doing. So if they make a
Right.
certain sound and then they do something, you can associate this sound or these sounds with this behavior, sort of thing. And that
Hmm.
is how we end up, or they're going to end up. And I think it's definitely possible that they're going to end up to be able to, they can communicate with whales if they can get the sounds down. They can communicate with whales, but not, again, we're not kind of like sitting down dialoguing with them. We are indicating, like, for example, I saw this video of this killer whale who had swam up to this boat of people, and he was making kind of gestures, right? But they didn't know what it was, but it took them a while to understand that he was asking for help, or her, I don't know, was asking
Hmm.
for help. They called some of the offshore rescue team, who came and found that, and the whale stayed there and waited until the rescue team came, and then it waited a little bit longer. And the thought was maybe he's trying to gauge if they are safe or not, and then led him to his mom, or her mom. I think they said his, but I don't know. Again, whose tail was caught in a buoy, I think it was, in a string or whatever. So
Mm.
they ended up cutting it free, and then they thanked him, and by like, it's like swimming around and stuff like that, swimming around the boats or whatever, and then left off, and they were super happy. So this type of communication would make that whole process probably a little bit easier, knowing
Well,
they're hearing,
yeah.
if we knew what they were, the clickings or the splashing or whatever it is
Hmm.
was indicating, we could immediately interpret it, use it with the computer, or just whatever, and then be able to re-communicate with them with the same sounds, or sounds that would correspond to the situation, and then go and maybe help, or whatever the situation is. It would be great. And on that actually, I'm
Hmm.
sorry, on that note, it's not the first time that this has happened.
Oh yeah, we have lots of
Right.
history.
There is this, and this is what I had added in our notes is that be, I had, I'd watched this video, Oprah Winfrey video, which I also put in the description, of a woman who was telling parents how to know what their babies up to the age of like 3. I think it was like up to a month or something, or sorry, up to a year or something. I forgot what the age limit was. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
knowing what the child wanted by the sound, or the sound that they made when they cried or whatever. And she indicated on the show, like they had studied all these babies and stuff like that, and they had learned that this sort of guttural sound means, you know, I have gas or whatever. And it's not the baby thinking I have gas or whatever. It's a natural sound
It's
that comes
natural.
out because
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to get rid of something, you know? And you hear it and you're like, okay. And so she sat down with these mothers. So she indicated the ones, I think there were 3 or 5, I can't remember, whatever. And then she sat down with mothers who had babies that were crying and whatever. And she was telling them, because babies' needs are very basic. So she was telling them, oh, do you hear this sound? That means she needs to be comforted. Do you hear this sound? That means he's uncomfortable. So you want to check to see if his diaper is making him uncomfortable, if he's too hot, or something to that effect, or he's saying that he's hungry or something like that, and she got them all quiet, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that's already happened. We can't talk to babies, but we can
Right.
communicate with babies and babies can communicate with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on a basic
Yeah.
level.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and basically, what
but
what
that's
what
good.
these models allow us to do is take these huge reams of information and make sense of it,
Yeah.
right? Like with a baby, a parent would learn that just by repetition,
Right.
right? It's just
Exactly. Yeah.
a constant interaction, and then you start noticing the pattern, right? Whereas these things can just say, "Hey, look, give me these, 5 billion data points, right, of things that happened." And then get into it. One thing that I thought was interesting was I was listening to a podcast. They're talking about a company that's doing what was it called? So this is generative AI, but yeah, there's so many ways to use again like the math, and so it was really more of a model to help. It was called Causal AI. I forget the company that's working on this, but
Coswell.
essentially causal AI. So essentially, as humans, we tend to see two things that are correlated
Yes.
and assume one caused the other, right?
Yes.
And so, but
Yes.
this AI is being trained to better be able to tell us whether something is causal or not. So
Right.
it would be able to look at the data and say, hey, look, your sales went down 5% because you changed the label on the box from blue to red,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It will be able to take the information in and using the model determine the causal relationship and not just the correlation. So I thought that was interesting
That is
as far as
very
a kind of
interesting.
a place
That
to
is very
use the
interesting.
AI.
Mm-hmm.
But because again, it's there's so many ways and so many little niches
Mm-hmm.
that I think someone described it where to get to again like the general intelligence, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, let's just assume, say there's like 170 many pieces that have to work together to make that happen, right?
Right.
And right now we're working
Right.
on like 5 or 6 of these things, right? That are kind of commonly known we're
Yeah.
working on, but like is really, and it might even be more, but right, the thought was, hey, there's so many individual intelligences, individual processes that we have to get working and then start layering them and attaching them together
Yeah.
to even ever get something, even if that something is possible,
Right.
Close.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we need the systems to do it. So, like, hold on one second. I gotta.
I.
Um. So you have like you have people like Michio Kaku right now, who is um theorying about like supercomputers. Because when you start layering all that stuff together, we don't have a computer that can run all that. We're looking at supercomputers or And why can't I think of the name of those
Quantum computing. I
computers?
know that's kind of
Thank you.
the new hotness right
Quantum
now. Yeah.
computing.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
we have quantum computers already. Just they're they're still what we consider simple, but they can run complex things
Yeah,
still.
man, we're gonna
Yeah.
get there
So
too.
it's
I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, to that point, I saw some companies working on. I'm not sure if how successful it's going to be, but they're working on because right now we use electricity to transfer the information, right, as far as circuits.
yep,
But they were using light. Um,
yes.
so again, I'm
yeah,
not sure how that's progressing, but they were looking to kind
superposition.
of start marketing it more to enterprise and kind of these large data centers to help as far as energy efficiency and also because again that's the biggest piece is the energy, right, to even run these things,
Yeah.
which so is
Yes.
also why a lot of companies are there's these large language models, but they're trying to get kind of smaller ones that are more specific,
Mm-hmm.
because then they can
Hmm.
use less energy and it's less expensive.
Yeah.
Because again, to these chat GPT queries are not free,
No,
right?
they're
It's costing
No.
energy,
yeah.
right? Because as an example, I
Not
know
even
for
just energy. It's
yeah,
costing. They have to pay for these things.
well, right, yeah. And so example, I know like we have our call center application. We use it's called call tracking metrics at work, and so they now have a tool where we can have it analyze conversations because they get transcribed on the phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can analyze that, and we can kind of ask it to pull out certain information, right? And also even analyze sentiment. Hey, was the caller happy or sad at the end of the call,
Right.
right? And different things. But to do that, I forgot how many cents it was per each one
Yeah.
because again,
Wow.
it
Yeah.
costs,
It
right? It's
costs.
not
Yeah.
free because ChatGPT and these other models are charging these companies to use
Right.
the features.
Mm-hmm.
So as we get more narrow, it can get cheaper, and maybe we can use it more often in
Right.
very specific kind of narrow circumstances. But
Yeah. I,
yeah, that well thing is interesting for sure.
yeah. It's. I think it's incredible because I think. I mean, you were talking about enterprises, but we did our business corner. We were talking about people doing, not necessarily trying to shift away from a 9 to 5 job to do their own thing, create their own business. But there are aspects of creating your own business that you don't maybe not know how to do. You maybe do not know how to do, or you don't want to do. Like Tim
Hmm.
was talking about his t-shirts and stuff like that. But that could be very easily applied to your own. Even if it's just a side hustle. It could be very easily. You're like getting it to help you detect where best maybe to market your product, how best to market it, how effective your marketing is, personal brand. Because I'm not anti
Ineffective.
enterprise, but as we were talking about in the business chat, but as businesses get larger, you kind of lose your identity, but if you want to start your own business, which not everybody wants to do, which is perfectly fine, but if you do, this thing can help you as well. So it's definitely not something that people should be afraid of. It's definitely something that people should embrace, um, because it's just going to make life easier. And I feel like it's going to help us progress more. I think it's going to help us progress faster, as a
Hmm.
population. It'll help us progress faster. It could also, help us progress into our demise, which everything could. But so far, so good. So
Hmm. Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
I'm all so like I know I sometimes I speak where I have lots of concerns, but um I do understand that yeah, this is AI will help us, like you said, progress into things. I just I just don't want people to have this like this idea that it's all just great and there's nothing else to worry about. I feel like with anything you always address the concerns, while you're getting the good stuff out of it, right? Like cars, we want to make sure that people are not dying when they're driving in their cars because they don't have seatbelts. It's not the 50s,
yeah, but I
you
mean,
know.
again,
We
cars
don't.
progressed as well. They didn't start off with
Yeah,
seatbelts,
exactly.
and they didn't start
Nope.
off with speedometers. So like, it's going
But
to
they didn't go
be
fast
a
enough at all.
progression. We're going to learn what the dangers of it are, not
Yeah.
just the conceived dangers, but the actual dangers of it, and then we're going to make laws against using them, and then make sanctions or punishments if these laws are broken, so that that's the objective of the society. That's what the
Yeah,
governments are
but
supposed to
some
do.
things,
But the
right?
objective is to help protect your, not restrain your constituents, but to protect them from
But with
misuse.
Yeah, but with some things like with AI,
Hmm.
sometimes you have to conceive where where this could go and make some laws that can, work with that. Because, unlike cars, you know, if they do if that car hits a person, that's a very unfortunate thing for that person, right?
I think it's
Or
dangerous. I
that
mean, that's a
person
whole nother topic,
is
but I think it's
dangerous.
dangerous to
Yeah,
create a law based on a conception rather than on kind of reality. That's how law works anyway. Is well, sorry, that's how
wait till it happens.
judgments are made anyway. Like when you take something to court, it has to have been something that already happened, not something that is conceived to going
That's
to
a
happen
Well, yeah, and I
right.
think that's a limitation of the law,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
and Congress is that one is very slow.
It is very slow.
So
Yeah.
you don't want laws being made too rapidly,
Right. Yeah.
right? Because it's very difficult to
To change them.
change
Exactly. Yeah.
once it's in place. So really what we
yeah.
need is people to simply be responsible.
Yeah.
Is what we really want is
Exactly. Yeah.
is hey, look, if you're creating this thing, it's your responsibility to be responsible and to look forward
Hmm.
and anticipate like what are some potential outcomes. Like we can't predict the future.
Right.
But there's someone that I like to listen to. Her name is oh boy, she lives here in Baltimore. But her role is a futurist, and her job is literally she
hmm
she she contracts with the government, large corporations, and she doesn't predict the future, but she says, "Hey, look, based off of the data,
Hmm.
right? Here are some likely scenarios
Right.
and how things could play out given these parameters.
Right.
So, hey, you should be looking
Right.
at these places
Hmm.
to either hedge or protect or invest,
Hmm.
given."
Yeah.
Some likely things that could happen,
Right.
right? It's not telling you what's going to happen, but hey, look, based off of the past and how we analyze the future, here are trends, here are things that we see emerging. And so if we extrapolate this
hmm
out, okay, 20, 10, 20, 30 years, here's some places where it could likely end up. So based off of those
Yeah,
likely
that's what I mean.
things, let's do some things now to mitigate that. But laws can't really work that way
No.
because
Yeah.
one, people making laws have the time to understand to write the law,
Right.
right, and to debate it
Yeah.
and make it, and it's so difficult.
It is. It's a very
And
complicated
Congress
situation.
and Congress, if we're trying to make a law that's going to go 10 years out, we'll meet the damn deadline before the law comes out.
No, but even that, like they made laws, some of the most ridiculous laws, and they were. That's again, they made and they're
Yeah, that's another
still on the
conversation.
books, like not spitting on the sidewalk on on Sunday of the first
Right.
Sunday of July or something like that, and they still exist. There's a guy on Instagram who literally makes videos about these stupid laws that still exist. It's just very, like Chris said, it's just very difficult to get rid of that once it's been done. So it's, yeah, whatever. Anyways, but you know what you were talking about, Chris, made me think of another subject that you were talking about, which was, what was that? Something like an information bubble or something like that.
Filter bubbles,
A
yeah,
filter
for
bubble,
sure.
yeah. Because so I was reading up on what a filter bubble is, and I feel like that in general is kind of what everyone suffers from, like most humans
Yeah,
suffer from.
it's a big problem.
Yeah, and as a futurist, when you were talking about the future, the lady, I don't know who she is, but I was thinking that's dangerous as well. Even I don't know what her specific job is, but just from what I heard you speaking about, it's great because a lot of people do use kind of like models and historic historical data to kind of forecast. I mean, most businesses do that. Like if a business isn't doing that, probably won't be in business for long, just in general, right? But there is always something that you were not able to take into account, right?
Hmm.
Which was there, the data was there, but you weren't able to take it into account because for you maybe maybe it wasn't important enough, maybe it didn't show up on your radar, maybe for whatever reason. So that's what kind of made me think about that. And I thought the issue is with humans. So first, do you want to share what what the what's it called, the what bubble, filter bubble? Do you
Filter
want
bubble?
to explain what that is?
I mean, essentially, it happens. It's exasperated with the way the internet works,
Right.
In that with all these algorithms and things, the internet is designed to show you what you want to see.
Right.
And so the more you search things and the more you like things on the internet, the more you're seeing things that you want to see, which means you're seeing less and less of things that don't already fit the way you think and perceive the world. So over time, people are seeing less that they disagree with, right? And starting to but not realizing that. So you're going online and searching things and you're thinking this is the way the world is because this is what's coming up in my Google search.
Right.
What really happening is Google is showing you what it thinks you want to see.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You know, as an example was I think it was like someone searched like BP, right?
Yeah. I saw that.
So someone might see blood pressure results. Someone might see results for like British Petroleum, like the gas company, right?
Yeah.
Like same search, but it knows you, so it's going to show you like your stuff. And so and we also do it just as we choose who to follow on social media, right? Who we unfriend. Like all of that gets into kind of making us more and more narrow, which I think is becoming more of a problem. Because there's less things that kind of tie us together, which we'll discuss on another podcast. But yeah, it's
possible.
But also that feeds into how people are viewing even AI.
Yes,
right. In all of this, because they are looking at news articles or news reports or things that they're reading.
Terminator,
right? But what they're reading is stuff that they are inclined to agree with already.
Yep,
and it's already in their little universe, right? Which is why I mentioned to you guys before, which is why I'm part of a few different groups online that are intentionally not like me.
Right.
I mean, sometimes it's very difficult to talk to some of these people and to hear what they're saying, but it also helps me hear how they're perceiving different things that are going on.
Right.
So I'm not only hearing, my perspective.
What you want.
But
keep the horizons bright.
But again, exactly. I think back to the AI thing, I think there's some degree to where I think just tech bros, like the people in technology, are sometimes also subject to the same situation.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas they are viewing AI this way, right? And so the way they talk about it, they may say things in a certain way that they're not realizing how it's going to be taken or perceived.
Right. Yes.
Or understood.
Right.
Like, oh, we're afraid of AI. Like, you're not really afraid of AI because you wouldn't be doing it.
Right.
Like you're actively progressing it, but you're so scared of it. Like that's not really what you mean. Right. But because you're over in this little bubble, you're not really understanding like how that's affecting things.
Yeah.
Or you are and doing it on purpose because
I don't know, because excuse me, just very related, but in a different aspect. Like people who've worked in tech have always had the stereotype that they don't know how to talk to people, right? Because they are in a bubble. They learn how to talk this way to each other. So when they're talking to people who are outside of it, they don't know how to dumb it down in quotes, or they don't know how to just kind of relate, sort of thing. But that is how humans generally are. Lawyers are exactly the same way, and so are doctors. And in fact, I think, Tim, you were talking about about how humans having a hard time communicating with each other.
So there are doctors right now in chat convey messages to patients' families because they understand that they do not convey very well.
Right.
So they're using
doctors are seeing, I don't know how many deaths per year or something like that, and then they have to deliver that information. they know they're supposed to be sad, but like you become desensitized. You're a human, so you're like, yeah, she
Yeah.
died, she didn't make it.
Yeah.
Oh,
She's
Yeah,
dead.
and
I'm
yeah,
you
sorry.
know, there are some doctors that have that skill set, but again,
yep,
a lot don't, right?
yeah,
I mean,
Lose it.
every doctor
Yeah.
is going to have, highest marks in every
right,
category of skill set for that job, right?
right.
And so, again, to your point, there are a lot of people that like that piece of the job,
Mm-hmm.
like they're just that's not them,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like maybe it's just writing the documentation,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm just terrible at the paperwork
Yep.
part.
There's
And this helps with that.
a doctor that I follow on social media. I think I've talked to him about him before. Michael Versowski.
Seems legit. I like it. Sounds about right.
I'll link his
Michael.
I'll link his social media. But anyways, like he has often stated that he really dislikes the paperwork because when he has to deal with the insurance companies and stuff like that, it's very complicated. He doesn't know, and he has to spend his time doing this, researching this when he could be with patients who actually need help rather than, also ChatGPT. So, excuse me, AI would be able to assist with that where this is menial, whatever, but obviously they have to be reviewed because, we were talking about Chris, you were talking about the lawyer situation.
Yeah. So real quick. So these lawyers. So again, as we mentioned, how ChatGPT works, right, is that it's predicting the next likely thing to be in the sentence, right?
Right.
It's not giving you information, which means it's not useful for facts. It's useful for brainstorming and getting idea and summarizing something, right? But facts, it doesn't do. So in this example, these lawyers went on ChatGPT and were looking for like prior decisions about this particular topic, right? They asked ChatGPT. It gave them a lot of great sounding decisions that were made and citing them, and this person be this person, all this stuff, right?
Right.
It pulled it out. They took that, sent it to the court. Judge was like, "What are you doing? Like this is all false. Every case it referenced false,
Oh my
all made up.
goodness.
It sounded correct because that's what it's made to do. It's made to sound like a human and sound
Right.
like it's telling you the type of facts, type of information that you're looking for, right?
Mhm.
But it's not there to give you the facts. And so they were like, well, we didn't know that it was incorrect because I mean there are tools that are designed to do this.
Yes, there are, yes.
Right, that are attached to
Actual
like
documentation.
legal libraries,
Yes,
right?
right.
ChatGPT is not that,
No.
right? But this goes back to people not understanding what it is
Mhm.
and how it works, and so there's liable to be misuse of it if they're relying on it for certain things.
Yep.
Right, like medical diagnoses, right? Other things
Right.
where it's not trained. Now, you could train a model specifically for purposes related to medicine,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
But these general things are not that.
No. Exactly.
They took the internet, and we don't know how much of it or which pieces. We know some parts of it, but we don't know exactly what it was.
Mhm.
And they won't tell us anymore because now they want to make money off of it.
Right.
So
Exactly.
OpenAI was much more open
It was.
until at some point you got to make money.
Right.
I mean, I'm not mad at them.
I mean,
So-
I don't know how Google did it. They're still free.
They have commercials.
Well, they have
Still.
ads, right? I mean,
ads. Yeah. Sorry, that's what I
right.
meant.
Yeah, I mean, Google's really an ads company.
It
That's
is.
how
Yeah.
they make the money. So
Facebook.
it's not about
Yeah.
you are the product. They're selling you.
But
So, you
AI
know.
could
Yeah.
do the same thing. I'm just saying. Listen, they want
Yeah,
subscription.
well,
I mean,
So
yeah.
to that point, it's funny because who was it? Sarah Silverman was suing OpenAI and Sam Altman and other people because she claimed that if you go and ask it to summarize, because she has a book that she's written,
Mhm.
copyright, it will summarize her book. Now the question is, how can
that copyright?
ChatGPT summarize her book? And the inference is that there are sites that are out there that are illegitimate that have copies of
PDF
books.
of her books. Okay, yeah.
Exactly, right?
Okay.
Where you can go and get them. So her claim is that ChatGPT, when it was scraping the internet,
Pull it.
pulled from those illegitimate sites,
Mhm.
which is why it can summarize her book. Now,
Okay.
I don't know how she's going to prove that, but it could be an interesting precedent how this case goes.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Because it also could have been looking at other people that had summarized her book and using them as
It could have
references
been,
to write the
yes.
summary.
Exactly.
So right, so
But I mean,
I don't know
like,
how.
her
But that's
book,
still
her book
illegitimate.
was already published. Is that what you said?
Correct. Yeah, it's published.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But ChatGPT did not pay. Right. Like they didn't pay to get a copy of the
Right.
book
Yes.
to ingest it
Mm-hmm.
and use it for this purpose.
Right.
So how'd they get the
To
information?
that point, there is a website, or sorry, there is a website that allows you to get PD. I don't know if it's for all books, but allows you to find the. I forgot what the website is. I bookmarked it too, to find PDFs of printed books for free.
Yeah.
I mean, it's legal. It's a legal website. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
Napster back in the day or something like that. You know, like it's a legit website. So, and there's also a website that allows you to read newspaper articles that are normally behind a paywall for free. Again, totally legit website.
Right. Now, again, all those things. But the other thing is, how do we view these AI models as far as them scraping the internet?
Yeah.
Do we treat them as human or not? Because as an example, right, there's code that you can put. I forget what I think it's called robot.txt that you can embed in your website
Mhm.
so that Google will not index your site.
Right. Okay.
So you can tell Google, hey, don't look at my site, don't scrape this, like see this and then stop.
Right.
Right. So, we may need something similar for AI in the future to say, hey, look, like this stuff is not for you to go and gobble up and use to then go monetize and sell.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's into what they're doing now. They get all the information, they train their models
Mhm.
on all this stuff, and then they go sell the end result.
Right.
Or to that end, what you said, just like for sites that it can look at, they should have something there like that. I mean, when you come off a thought and then you realize that it's all breaking up,
Yeah.
and then you just fall off the bridge.
Yeah. So to that point, so yeah, I get it, Tim. So another way that I've heard it being used is Adobe has a tool, right? Adobe in Photoshop, I think, has a tool that you can use, like it's basically a generative AI tool, kind of like Stable Diffusion or DALL-E, but their tool it was only trained on images that Adobe already had license to.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Because Adobe has a whole library of images, right? So they
Yes.
use those images to train their model,
Yes.
so that if you use it, they will stand behind
Yep.
you having license to use those images that you generate with their tool.
Yeah. Mage
Because
does that
they
as well.
basically,
Mhm.
which I think is an interesting way to go about it. Is, hey, look, we know this corpus of data we have access to,
Mhm.
so we will then stand behind you in case you happen to get sued. I'm not sure how that's going to work in court, but if you get sued for copyright, if you use our tool, then we back you up because we already had license to use that, and it's already
Right.
Yeah.
included. So
And I think just in general, like if you have websites on the internet that are not, I think they should be specifically blocked if the information behind it is proprietary. Like I feel like, or specific. Like if you have information, I don't know if this really is a thing, but if you have information about the Pentagon and stuff like that, if that stuff is on the internet, it should be behind some sort of firewall that is going to prevent some sort of internet scraping. Like I feel like that is just makes sense. It's like putting a lock on your house, right?
So that kind of stuff actually does exist right now. Like you're not going to go online and you're not going to find how to make like a nuclear.
You can on the dark web. Just
anything.
saying.
Okay, that's the dark.
It is the internet. I mean, granted, ChatGPT probably.
So you're talking about the internet as a whole?
Yeah, I'm just talking about in general. Like
but I don't think
if it's supposed to be protected, you need to protect it. That's how I feel about it. If it's supposed to be protected, you should already have some sort of protection on there so that it is not accessible by this,
but I don't think it's going to be scraping. I don't think it's going to be scraping what we consider the dark web.
They will definitely, if it doesn't already exist, they will definitely develop one that scrapes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because I mean, the whole purpose of it is to get information useful in helping to generate text and generate things. So if it's useful, sure, but it might not be the type of data that's useful potentially in how it's organized, right? If it's not useful for processing language, then there's no point in like pulling it in.
Yeah.
So it's not like they went and
Yeah.
pulled everything, right? They're trying to get large amounts of conversational and other things that they can use to help understand kind of how humans talk. But
Yeah.
This is gonna change how we do things, like as far as the internet, like when we set up websites and stuff. They're gonna have to have, and I think, and this is what Chris was saying. Where when you're setting up a website, that you state that you want AI to be able to find your website, and then there's rules on how the AI can interact with your website. They're gonna have to have some kind of way of setting that up, and then also and it lets people know that that if you say that you want AI to be able to find your website, that if it's a illegitimate website, that means that um, authorities can see this too. So you're not going to hide.
Yeah, but the authorities would have to
that's
be
the case already. That's the
looking
case
for it.
already. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're on the public
No,
internet,
but
that's already like you already know that.
Right. You already know that you're
yeah, but I'm saying
susceptible
like,
to.
well, yeah, no. I mean, so like, because like in the case of like whatever her name is, I can't think of her name is right now. The comedian you was talking
Sarah
about
Silverman, yeah.
that has her, yeah, that has her book. If her book is on like a legitimate website, okay, the AI has rules and how it can interact with that website and what it can do. But for the sites that don't have that setting on their thing because they don't want to be found, the AI will just overlook them. They won't even look at those things. And I think that's what you were saying.
I
I'm
mean, that's
just
how it's
saying
supposed
it
to be
in a
set
different
up,
way.
but I'm saying that's how it's supposed to be set up. Like in general, that's how it's supposed. So, for example, yeah, we we schedule our videos, and so if there was a video that we scheduled but we didn't want to be revealed, we're hoping that, for example, YouTube has some kind of protocol set up that will prevent someone using ChatGPT or something or whatever from going, you know, detecting scraping information from YouTube channel, seeing if we have something set up already and being able to get access to that. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah, it's not public
because
yet.
it's not public, right? It's on the internet, it's there, but there's something protecting us from from this tool. That's how it's supposed to. That's how it is supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. I'm just gonna
Well,
leave it like that.
yeah, and no, I know what you're saying, but I don't think I don't think that they have rules of interaction based like for AI. Like like I don't think they have a rule that says how AI is to interact with this website. What are the rules for it? What can it do? What can it not do? I think it could just pull stuff
No,
Well, yeah,
from anywhere.
right now, yeah, I think this is going to be a lot of conversation around, if something is publicly available on the internet, what does that mean as far as these AI tools ingesting it, using it, and then
Yeah,
profiting off of it? Because even just around like art, I know that's kind of a big discussion now. In that, if Stable Diffusion can go scan every image from Getty online, right, and then it says,
yeah,
"Hey, make an image in the style of X artist." It used those images to scan, but is the result, if they sell that result, how does that work? Do they owe them royalty? I mean,
yeah,
is it different if I as a human just look at it and make a copy myself, right? And that style, like, is that's different because I'm making a copy personally, and I'm able to do that all I want. People do that all the time. They make
yeah,
their own version of something as long as it's different. So
I mean not
there's a lot.
even people who copy what do you call those? Copy the images of like the Peanuts gallery and stuff like that. Perfect,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you can draw
copies.
your own
Yeah.
style. You do that all the time. I mean, you can't necessarily sell it, right?
mm-mm,
Oftentimes, unless you have license to use that commercially.
Mm-hmm.
And even that sometimes can be vague if it's different
Right.
enough.
Exactly.
And
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so that's where when you attach AI to it and these models, it's gonna be interesting to see how the law tries to catch up with some of this
Right.
as some of these things now start coming into court. I know I saw, it's not directly related, but there was a case around, how did this work? It was like someone had so there was a license to a photo that was licensed to some magazine. Someone used that photo to create a piece of artwork, and then that artwork was referenced in another magazine, right? And the person of the original photo wanted like royalty for that use, but they're like, well, you don't, like, it's no longer yours because they modified it, and so this is actually theirs.
Right.
And so if sometimes the way copyright works can be interesting because once you modify it as yours, it's no longer the original thing. And so as AI starts doing this kind of automatically, and then it's gonna be interesting to see how that interacts with property rights and copyright and all this stuff as it starts merging these things together. I mean, a side note, there's a whole controversy about the Secret Invasion show because it used generative AI to make the intro. Now, I think they did that on purpose because the whole idea of the show is about scrolls looking like humans and taking different faces, and it's what can you trust and disinformation. So I think it makes sense to use AI to make the thing. For one, it has a very unsettling look, but also I think it's on brand. But some people were just disturbed about it. But it also goes to show, did that remove jobs from some people? But again, that's the conversation we had before around, that's going to happen. But just make sure that people get credit for their work. Right. So with that, I heard that what they did was they trained it on art that they had their artists do. So their artists made the art. Right. They used AI to then generate images based off of the art that they drew because they knew kind of how they wanted it to look. And then they used the end result as the actual intro for the show. Right. So it's interesting. I don't know where we'll get to. I know there's concern. I mean, generative AI is also just, part of the reason why the actors and the writers are striking right now.
Yep. I really want to talk about that too.
The way that can be used. But I know we've kind of come to the end of the road.
Yeah, we have.
It's hard to let go.
Yeah. All right, boys to men.
And so we've come. I will not sing anymore. It's just a quick side note. So Nate, it was fun. The other day I was trying to remember. Do you recall the name of our singing group that we had back at church?
Now
but I was trying to think. I was mind blown that I even did that in the first place. But that's just way off topic. But wow.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Oh, man.
Was it Fifth Harmony? No, it wasn't Fifth Harmony. No, that's an actual group, right? Fifth Harmony.
That's a show, I think.
Oh, is that a show? Okay, no, I can't remember.
But yeah,
I don't remember.
But yeah, well, good discussion, you guys. Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see where this AI thing goes. I'm excited for the uses of it. I think people don't be scared of Terminator coming or Skynet or the movie Eagle Eye, I think, was about the machines coming to get us. But do be concerned about how you use these things to rely on information.
Yeah.
And where you might see other people using it to give you information. Right. And also, I think we want to be concerned about using it to make decisions for us. We already have algorithms. I mean, the whole credit reporting system is essentially an algorithm.
Yeah, it is.
Right. And that's making all kinds of decisions. So I think we want to be concerned about, hey, let's maybe don't have this thing doing important stuff for us until we kind of get this thing vetted out. But, hey, I'm hopeful for the future.
Me too.
And we'll see where it goes.
All right.
Well, thanks for hopping on today with us, people. We appreciate you as always. Find us online everywhere.
Yes.
We're on Reels. Nate has been pumping out the Reels like crazy of late.
Yeah.
We're on TikTok. We got YouTube Shorts out there. We're going to be looking to actually add some more content pretty soon, so keep an eye out. If you have ideas for content you would like to see, let us know. We're open to ideas. You may see some maybe reactions. You may see some other stuff coming out here in the future. So stick with us and you'll see us. Again, we're unofficially opinionated everywhere you find us. Subscribe, like, hit all the notification stuff so you know when we got new stuff out there for you. And as always, thanks to Nate for the Tyler editing work and now taking over the Reels and stuff.
Yeah.
I'll get back to it. Again, I say it every time. I'll get back to it.
It's all good, man. Listen.
I know. Thanks to Tim for all the thumbnails and stuff. It gets better and better every time, folks.
Yes, it does.
We appreciate you, Tim.
Yep.
Thanks also to Jaden Moore for intro outro music. I need to get back with him again to get us some more music for our Reels and things so that we don't get any copyright strikes. Sometimes that'll muck up the gears and we don't get the views we want. So we have seen that. So yeah, folks, Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
All right. Ciao. Bye,
Bye,
Tim.
Tim.
All right.